we launched, in the US mostly for last year, and we were lucky enough to have REI as our first customer.
That
was when I started to work on the brand, I was like, if one day we can sell to them, that would be fantastic.
Right, and that one day was the first day, it sounds like.
Yeah.
From ALDA, this is the Protect Your Wild podcast, a show about founders, athletes, and influencers, and how their passions for the environment led to their actions and career paths today. I'm Colin Campbell, and this week I'm having a chat with Guy Linossier, the founder and CEO of Saola Shoes, a company making some kick-ass shoes out of some crazy materials. They got recycled bottles, they got some crazy algae stuff, and they got organic stuff, all going into some great shoes. And I've done it once again, y'all. I got you a 20% off discount to Saola Shoes. All you got to do is check out our blog post on them, and the code will be right there. It's at aldalifestyle.com. And yeah, I hope you enjoy his French accent as much as I do. How are you doing, Guy?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thanks.
Fantastic. I appreciate you, first of all, joining me for conversation a little bit. I stumbled across your company and my research of different sustainable brands, and obviously love what you guys are doing. But real quick, could you explain kind of what your mission has been and how Saola Shoes differentiates, from the rest of the pack?
Yeah, sure. So it's been about a year. And the footwear industry is the second largest, polluting industry with textile. And there is really not much going on as far as trying to bring more sustainable products to market. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we launched with the mission to, make a change, make an impact. That's, basically really, what the brand is about. And we are working today with recycled materials, with new innovative materials made out of algae.
Yeah.
For example.
The sole of your shoe, kinda, right?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, the sole. Is so we are working with a U.S. supplier called Bloom Foam. And they are going and collecting algae and blooming algae in lakes where they are invasive and killing all the biodiversity. And they collect the algae, dry them up, and then we can mix the powder of algae with other materials to make a foam for insoles and outsoles.
That's awesome. Talk about innovation. Wow.
Yeah.
And kind of solving two problems with one company, right? They're helping those lakes out that are getting, choked out by the algae, in addition to supplying you guys with cool materials.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And then we use for the upper of the shoes, we try to use mostly recycled materials. So today it's recycled plastic bottles, but we are also looking and trying to figure out the next step and other materials as well. Today when you look at our new spring 2019 collection, we have about between 5 and 7 plastic bottles per pair.
Oh wow!
So then we have organic cotton laces and cord, and really the mission is, and our idea is to always be looking for.
Yeah, and are there advantages, I guess, because to have like a synthetic upper, right? So using the recycled plastic as opposed to going, of course, for example, I'm sure you're aware of Allbirds that has the kind of wool upper, right? So are there advantages to going with that?
Yeah, I think it's a different story, different commitment. For us, the plastic issue is something we want to work on, and the wool it's fine. It's not easy to use for every kind of shoe.
Right.
And I know that Allbirds they are also using some other materials as well now, because I think they found a limitation in that material. Yeah.
Right. I did notice they did release some some other styles and stuff. Obviously, they've been blowing up lately, and that must be encouraging for you guys, seeing that there's attention being brought to the kind of footwear industry, and hopefully we'll see you guys doing the same thing here soon.
Yeah, we hope. Yeah.
So, what is kind of your background, and how did you get into this whole business?
So I'm a French guy. So I grew up in the French Alps, and so I was always surrounded by mountains.
So lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, so by mountains, we have a lot of lakes, and to me, I've always been passionate about nature and just very concerned about environment preservation. So I joined after I went and did a business school, and after I joined the outdoor industry because to me that was the industry that was closest to my passions for sports, but also for
Absolutely.
nature. And so I worked for a French outdoor group for about 17 years, but 13 years in Boulder, Colorado. The more I learned about the environmental impact of the textile and footwear industry, I really wanted to try to make a change and make things better. So after a few years, I started to think about ideas and concept, and I could see that on the textile, so on the apparel side, you have quite a few brands. I see your Patagonia hat on the screen, but
and
it's like Patagonia. Or Prana, or some very
Prana's
very
great.
nice cool brands doing a lot of good things on the apparel side. But when I started to look on the footwear side, I just couldn't find any sustainable brands that I would buy. I mean, you could find some hippie-ish brands, but you had to be very, very committed to wear these.
Right.
So my idea, and I used to buy, surf, skate, brands for like everyday use.
Right.
So and I'm like, well, yeah, there is nothing in that kind of world that has a true sustainable story and commitment.
Yeah,
so
they
that's
have
really
a very Vans-esque kind of look to them. It's definitely something that I could see, walking around in a good daily use shoe, right?
Yeah. So we don't want to, we don't want to do too technical products because and in fact, the more technical you go, the more challenging it is to bring to use sustainable materials because you have a lot of technical needs.
Right.
But for everyday use, it's where, and that's also where the volume of the business is today.
Right.
And the volume of the usage is today. So that that's really where we want to focus. Yeah. My vision is. The more shoes and sustainable shoes we'll sell, the less regular shoes would be on the market. So that's and so then we would have a bigger impact. And I didn't talk about our second mission, which is to help some NGOs.
Right.
And we are focusing starting spring 19. We will be focusing on wildlife preservation.
Awesome.
This is something that's to me very important. And when we look at numbers today about the loss of biodiversity, it's just crazy. And I don't think we realize how bad this is. And in the last 40 years, we have lost about 60% of species.
Yeah, it's insane.
And it just we just can't keep going at that rate. So so I want to invest, take some of our money made with the sales to help some people on the ground doing some work to preserve the wildlife.
Yeah. Is there an organization that you guys have chosen to partner up with that in that effort yet?
Yeah, so in 2018, so we had 3 organizations, but it was a little bit too much, we decided to really focus on one organization starting this spring, and we will change organization either every season or every year. So the ones we have starting next month it's a very small organization based in Kenya, Africa.
Okay.
Because they have had a big drought in Kenya for the last 3-4 years. And so a guy there, was going to the national parks, and he could see a lot of dead wildlife just because of no water. And a year and a half ago, he basically bought a water truck and started to put some water holes in some places for wildlife to come and drink and be able to go through those droughts.
Right.
And so basically we're going to help them. They have, the guy is awesome. He's very sick. In fact, he's going to have, a big surgery very soon. But despite his sickness, he has been very, very committed. So I'm even more happy to, help him and help his efforts. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Each truck, costs about, $150 each trip. The more, money we'll give them, the more, trips and they'll be able to make, basically.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I didn't even know a organization like that existed, But yeah, because of course a lot of these extreme weather changes are kind of a result of our climate change, input and so forth. So, and then when you lose keystone species like the elephants, right, that used to be able to apparently dig down deep for water and get groundwater that would, supply it for the rest of the species. But, we've just about killed all of them off. So,
I was looking at the number, a couple of weeks ago. At the beginning of the last century, there were about 5 million elephants in Africa.
That's hard to believe now.
There are about 300,000 left.
That's unbelievable.
And it just every year it's going crazy. They said that lions might be gone in 20 years. Man. And and to me, I have 2 kids, 2 daughters, I want them to be able to see wildlife in the wild and alive, so that's really part of a big part of our mission.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the biggest issues that with how kind of prominent climate change is in the media and stuff, you don't hear nearly as much about the like mass extinction that we're going through. I feel like that might potentially scare people that aren't very aware that it's happening, right? When you tell them that statistic that 60% of species, has gone extinct, and that everybody knows with the ecosystem, of course, everything's connected. You have a big web, and when you start removing pieces here, there, and everywhere from that web, it's has kind of almost unknown how big that impact will be on the bigger picture.
Yeah, I think we talk about species extinction, but we are one of them.
Yeah.
So it's
true.
we can't live just by ourselves, and and to me, this is a big subject and projects, and it's like I feel when I talk to people like they don't know what to do, and I'm like every time you buy something, you do something, you can vote. It's like you can vote for going in one direction or the other direction,
right?
And and for us, and for me, Saola, I just want the brand to be one small element to make a more sustainable world tomorrow.
Yeah, that's exactly why I like kind of doing this and talking with founders from different sustainable private companies, is because you have control over your impact and where you choose to invest your money, be it in your materials or in the suppliers you work with or the nonprofits you support. And of course, with how crazy American politics is specifically right now, as a voter you almost feel useless, but as a consumer you can always support companies or brands that are doing the right thing rather than just the mega brands that everybody knows. So you grew up doing some outdoor sports in the Alps, I presume. What were some of your favorites, and how did that kind of like play into your love for nature? Because I love sports myself, and it's definitely a big part of why I kind of came towards this whole route and sustainability.
Yeah, sure. I grew up, skiing, mountain biking, just, hiking with my, parents and, siblings. We spent so much time in, just outdoors that, we were just doing a lot of stuff. Yeah. And that's why, when you live in such a, nice environment, for me, it's so key to preserve it. Yeah. And I think, we can do it. We just have to act and do things. And there is really definitely a matter of urgency. So that's why we try to really, do as much as we can. And, our mission with Saola, again, is to reduce the carbon footprint of the shoes every season. Right. And we are going to invest in a couple of innovation projects, always, with that in mind. Right. I'm hoping that, there are some other brands already doing some other stuff on the footwear side, and I'm hoping that all together, we can really make a big change.
Yeah, I've noticed a couple of the bigger brands, Adidas and Nike kind of being the two largest that come to mind, have had some models at least within their within their lineups that are sustainability focused, which is I guess a step in the right direction, right?
No, it's I like very much what Adidas did last year with their Parley, so it's a recycled plastic from the ocean project. And I know that they are committing to less plastic in their collections and stuff like that. So that's great. I think the big challenge for some of the big brands is to integrate and incorporate sustainable manufacturing in their business model, because it definitely has a cost to it. Right. Where I'm based, I talked a lot with the people at Salomon. Because their headquarters is just a couple miles from my office. Oh, okay. Nice. And they have, a business model in place, margins in place, and if you have a product that costs, I don't know, $10, but if tomorrow you want to use recycled materials or organic materials, it's going to cost 14, 15, $16. And it's very difficult for them to keep their retail price and incorporate that extra expense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
do you think or I guess the hope is, right, that as more and more people start not only incorporating these materials into their shoes on the supplier side, but on the consumer side, more people start taking note of those materials, that those costs will go down over the long run, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. No, and I think it's a global thing. It's from the production side to the end of the life and to the consumer. And for us, step by step, we want to also try to incorporate in our strategy and communication about the consumer right. We are always pushed, and especially to with all the sales going on all the time and all that, to buy more. Right. But
lost you for a little bit there.
When you look at what you have, are you there?
Oh, yeah. I think I lost you for a few seconds there. Sorry. Could you do you mind repeating that?
Yeah, sure. So we try to we want to also not educate. I don't like that word too much, but just show example of buying right and not buying too much. In the US, but it's true also in other countries. But we are always pushed to buy more. Right. We have sales going on all the time, but it's just because of overproduction, and what I like to do is to really try, for Saola to produce just the quantities we need. And, my goal, and I'm hoping we will be able to reach that pretty quick, is never to have to go on sale. And if we can reach that goal, we can also, think about the next steps, which could be, we could even sell our products a little bit cheaper because we will sell them at the margin we need.
Right.
And we won't have to take in consideration X% of products to be able to have to sell on sale, at a lower price.
Right.
To me, I was watching a documentary a few weeks ago and about waste and just over consumption and production. Mm-hmm. And they were saying that if you look at what's in your closet, I think it's about 70 or 80% of the stuff you have you never wear.
Yeah, that is.
And
that's pretty true.
So it's a waste of money on our side because I've done the same, and because it's just basically money sitting in your closet,
right? And
it just it's just stuff we don't need. So why buying it and why producing it? So that's.
That is a great point. I never quite considered that all the sales and stuff was more so on the supplier side of just too much product, too much inventory from retailers, right? And they need to dump it to make space for the next season. So, slash the prices. And I'm sure you're aware of like Black Friday in America. Is that something that's like there in France as well, or is that a pretty American kind of idea?
I mean, it's very American. I think the second country that's where it's pretty strong is the UK. In France, it's starting to grow, but it's not, definitely not as big as in the US. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's looking at a holiday. It's basically a holiday in itself, and it's pretty insane here.
Yeah.
So do you guys have kind of plans for, the idea of the circular economy, right? Do you have plans in place for the end of the life cycle for your shoes?
So, it's funny. We had, meetings with 6 or 7 specialists, a couple of weeks ago, and trying to think about the next step, because last year was our first year, and so we kind of put like the basis, of the brand and where we want to go. And when we, if you look, in fact, at the carbon footprint of a pair of shoe, the end of the life is it's a very small percentage of
the total impact
of the impact.
Yeah,
and about 60-70% comes from the materials. And that's really why I wanted to focus on materials first, because this is the easiest and fastest way where we can really make a difference. And today, the challenge of the end of life is that there is no recycling, chain in place for shoes.
Right.
So it's a very complex product to recycle because you have a lot of different materials. Mm-hmm. So I do have in mind, and we are starting to think about some options where, if we simplify as much as possible the construction of the shoes, there could be ways to recycle at the end of the of the life of the shoe. But it's again, before doing this, in fact, we need to find ways and places where we could recycle them, because today there is just none.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, when you look at the components involved in your average shoe, you have, it's all over the place between laces, rubber, and then the cushioning, the insole itself. Yeah.
So we are working on a new on products for next year. And we are going to use quite a lot the knit technology. So it's like the idea of the knit for the uppers, And the big advantage of the knit technology is that first you have almost zero material waste, because you basically built the upper exactly in the shape and size that you need.
Right.
So it's it's very interesting, and also it's in terms of construction of the shoe, you can have shoes with just one layer of material on the top. So it's very simple and so very clean. And I would say, the more simple we can get on footwear production, the cleaner it will be.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm pretty excited to see that because I like the look of the knit uppers as well. I think it's a pretty clean design.
Yeah. And we are also working on a new construction, between the upper and the outsole, where instead of using glue, we are using stitches. And again, that could be one of the first steps to then think about ways to maybe be able, at the end of the life of the shoe, separate easily the upper from the outsole.
Right.
And we could at least the upper could be recycled, pretty easy. The outsole it's another story and another project, but yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. So one question I've always kind of had, given your shoe expertise in looking for hiking boots, for example, the kind of overall impacts of a leather shoe, which is kind of a natural source, but the tanning process is terrible. The treatment of animals is questionable. But yet you have, companies like Timberland, where I got mine from, that are making at least a lot of efforts in the world of the environment and how they kind of try to make up for, I guess, the impacts of their products versus the synthetic shoes that may not or most likely aren't going to be made of the recycled material and so forth. I was just wondering if you could kind of speak to that a little bit, or how do you go about kind of making your decisions in buying that technical footwear?
Sure. So the where should I start? So talking to a few sustainability specialists, it's always better to use recycled materials than even good first-hand materials. So it always has a lower environmental impact. As far as leather goes, we have looked at good, sustainable, and eco-friendly leather. We couldn't find any that were interesting, or we found a couple, but they were very, very, very expensive and more for luxury positioning than where we want to be.
Right.
You have more and more brands using natural tanning. So because one of the big challenge of the leather industry is the tanning process, when you use chroma. So I know that brands like Timberland, but quite a lot of other brands now are trying to not to have chroma in the tanning process. But to me, remain the leather, the leather material, which when we look today at where it's coming from, first the animal welfare and conditions is very difficult to have a good grasp on, and so I'm not sure about the sourcing.
Right, they're not very transparent about it.
Yeah, and also if you look at the number one reason for deforestation today, it's because of the cattle industry. Okay. If you look in Brazil, which is they have the biggest rainforest, but they destroy it at a crazy rate, and basically the main reason they are doing this is to plant corn to feed cattle both for the meat and the leather needs. And so to me that's why also I don't if tomorrow we find good sourcing leather, we might use it, but or if we find wool where we can really have a good control on the sourcing again, we might use it. But I would say the least amount of leather we use, the better.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know. I saw a stat in one of our recent podcast episodes that we did on U.S.'s use of agriculture, and I think it was about 30% of it went to just feeding livestock, whereas about 20% was maybe for actual human consumption. Those stats definitely aren't exact from memory, but the ratio is about there, where we're using about 10% more, I believe, to feed livestock that we're then eating versus what we're actually using.
Yeah, sure, yeah. No, but livestock and then but the textile and footwear industry is a very, very big user of water as well.
Oh, right.
I think to do to make a pair of jeans, I think you need about 5,000 gallons of water. So it's really between the cotton and then just the treatment for colors and stuff like that. So it's definitely an issue. So again, for us, we are really at the beginning of the story and the process, and we are going to work this year on a full life cycle analysis of our products. Because now that we have products, we can make it, and it will give us a better idea even of where our biggest environmental issues are, so that moving forward we can
prioritize like how to address what.
Yeah, find ways. Do we need to really focus really on recycled materials more? Do we really have to focus on saving water? So that and basically I want to do that every couple of years to always improve the process and our products. Yeah.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah. The constant kind of internal audits, I guess, are essential, I think, to know where the innovation is needed. And but yeah, obviously you guys started off the right way, and you're starting from a foundational level that's already far beyond in terms of sustainability and reduction of your carbon footprint, far beyond what most other brands that have launched, if not nearly all of the other brands that have launched in the past year have done. So it really is impressive. And so last kind of thing in the businessy world, your distribution model, I guess you guys of course do online sales, but are you in any retailers, or what is kind of your approach to building the awareness and getting the shoes in front of people to let them know they have the choice to go with something better or something less impactful to the environment?
Sure. Yeah. So we launched the brand like I said earlier, early 2018, and we really focus. Even if I'm based in France now, but I know the U.S. market a lot more than the European market. So we launched in the U.S. Mostly for last year, and we were lucky enough to have REI as our first customer. That was when I started to work on the brand, I was like, if one day we can sell to them, that would be fantastic.
Right. And that one day was the first day, it sounds like.
So that was an interesting challenge, because you can't mess up and from the get-go, but it was we had some good success with them, and we are growing to more stores this year. We have opened, quite a few smaller independent accounts as well. We are working with a website called Huckberry.
Oh yeah, I've heard of Huckberry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very nice website. Very outdoor, trendy outdoor, I would say.
Right.
And then we started to open some stores in Canada as well, where you have Mountain Equipment Co-op, which is kind of the same as REI but for Canada. Yeah. So we're starting to make some good progress on the distribution. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like some good retail partners to have, especially getting REI so early on is huge, and I'm sure maintaining that relationship, and hopefully I'll see you guys. You said you're in the flagship store in Denver, I believe, right?
Yeah, we are in Denver, in Seattle, in Portland, in New York. Last year we had about 10 stores. This year we're gonna go to about 40 stores.
Nice.
And then you have we have EMS on the East Coast. Also, we're gonna ship next in a couple of weeks for the first time. We have some good partners. We try to pick the right partners who first fit the products, of course, but also understand and want to change their sustainable approach. REI is very, very dedicated and committed to pushing the manufacturers, the brands to make things better.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really happy to be in their stores for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I'm gonna pick a pair up, what way kind of benefits Saola the most? Because I think if you support from the retailer side, right, then they're going to want to order more and maintain that partnership with you guys. Mm-hmm. But probably on a per pair of shoes basis, the margins benefit you almost to buy directly from your website, right?
Yeah, but I mean, to me, it's to me the website is more like because we are not in a lot of places yet, so it's more for people who hear from the brand, who are in places where you don't have stores selling Saola that you can buy. If in Boulder, we have a Boulder Running Company. We have not Boulder Running Company. We have a pedestrian shop, for example. Okay. We have Jack's Outdoors. They have the shoes, so nice. I'd rather help and push the shoes through their stores than directly on our website.
Okay, gotcha. Good to know. Good to know. So now I want to, if we can, do a little game or a little segment to kind of break it up. That is going to be a would you rather. So have you heard of this game?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to kind of lay out two different scenarios or things to pick from, and I kind of want to hear which one you'd rather choose, and then if you could walk me through your decision-making process on that. So the first one I got, which kind of ties directly into a question I asked earlier, but would you rather buy all organic and natural materials, so things from plants and animals, or all recycled / upcycled synthetic materials?
I think I would go with recycled, and upcycled materials and organic.
Mm-hmm. True.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess there, like you're saying, there's so much plastics and stuff that are already out there that we need to kind of take advantage of and do something with that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But then on the organic aspect, you have I think organic cotton for us, it's not something we want to use because it's requires a lot of water.
Right.
But we have plants like hemp or
is a great alternative,
or linen,
right.
Also. So those are options that we could look at for the future. Yeah.
Right. It's like it's crazy because the plants themselves are much more beneficial to not only reduction in water use, but I believe also the soil and how it. I think hemp specifically was one that is a lot easier on the soil than cotton, but yet
it doesn't require a lot of water.
Popular. Yeah. Sweet. So the next scenario I got here, we got 3 total. The next one is, would you rather see the world's electricity demands met by exclusively wind, solar, and geothermal means, or see electricity demands met exclusively by nuclear energy? Because I know France does a lot of nuclear, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, I would, rather see the sun and wind, wind energy, and I think there is no good option for, at a high scale today. But I definitely, think that, in the next 10 years, we're going to see a lot of changes. And, France is doing a lot of nuclear electricity, and it's I would say it's a clean energy when you have no problem, but there is a big risk if you have a problem. So you know, it's not cut and dry.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. In the U.S., we have so many, I think, fault zones that are really close to nuclear facilities, which of course isn't a great combination to have there.
So you know, so I think you know, there is a lot of you know, I'm sure we're going to see really a lot of changes in the next 10, 20 years. You know, I know that, you know, you have you know, energy that can come from the ocean, you know, with the waves and currents.
Right. That's stuff,
you know. Yeah, so, you know, I think that one of the challenges is to store the energy and the electricity today. So, yeah, you know, I'm sure Elon Musk will find, you know, something new pretty soon.
Yeah, there's so much room for innovation in that space, and I think it's going to be, you know, an efficiency game. We got the concepts there, but now, you know, how efficient can we be in turning those sources of energy, right, and converting them into electricity, and then of course storing that to levels that are safe enough where if, you know, there's natural disasters or whatever, that you can rely on the batteries that you have and stuff.
Yeah, but I also think that we can you know, because today we use a lot of energy, you know, electricity and others, and again, we can all you know, make a small you know, small change, you know, at our level by, you know, turning the lights off, you know, just, because it's really not much, but when you, you know, if you have billions of people doing the same stuff, it's a huge change, yeah. And hold on 1 second, I'm just going to grab something, because my wife showed me something she received this morning.
Okay.
And where it said, let's see.
I don't know, can you hear my bird talking
I can
to
hear
himself?
Bird, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully it's not coming through too loud.
No, it's okay for me.
On, so it's difficult to tell.
Yeah. So so what my so my wife, she sent me she's you know, she receives sentences from an app called Action for Happiness every day.
Okay.
And today's sentence was small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can transform the world.
There you go. That ties in perfectly.
Yeah, and I think that's true. So that's what I tell all my friends, all the people I work for. I'm like, you know, every time you do something, just take 1 second to think, you know, if you could do it differently or don't do it.
Yeah.
And you know, if we start to all think, you know, every day, you know, this way, then we can make a big change.
Yeah, reduction, like you said, is always the first step. You know, even if you have the, you know, $1 million home here in Boulder, and you got the newest solar panels up and the newest, you know, means to make it more sustainable. The best thing you can always start out with is reducing your consumption of everything, you know, water, electricity, products, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Buy food that you're gonna buy, not that you're gonna throw away.
Right.
You know?
Food's a big one.
And when we so 3 years ago, when we moved back from the U.S. to France, obviously we had a much smaller place to live in France than in the U.S.
Yeah.
And then also for 3 months, because all our stuff was on a container ship from the U.S. to France, we basically my wife and 2 daughters and I, we lived with 4 suitcases for 3 months.
Nice.
And and we had one of them was toys for the girls, and they didn't open it once. And
you use
that's
a whole
how
suitcase for toys, and there you go. They don't even look at it.
And that's how you realize that I mean, we can live with a lot less stuff than we had, in fact. So.
Absolutely, that's a good lesson to learn. I've been personally trying to. Each year, essentially going through doing kind of like a personal audit, right, and seeing in my closet what I don't use and what I can donate. You know, obviously there's people in need of that secondhand stuff. There's a demand for it, and I, as much as I can, if I am going to buy something new, like, you know, moving from Florida to Colorado, I had to get some jackets, right? I try to go to those thrift shops and stuff around here, and that's always the best kind of first line of shopping, I think, is to look used in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So my last question here for the would you rather is, would you rather undergo a water shortage in France or a power shortage where you're limited to just using enough to meet your need?
Power shortage for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, water is life, and we can deal with no power. Yeah.
So there recently were, and I don't know if I guess how informed or what have you on that, but blowing up in the U.S.'s news was the protests and so forth in France, and if I understood, it had to do with some kind of energy taxes or.
Yeah. It all started. They wanted to raise the price of gas to have a special tax to invest in new energy. But gas is already very expensive,
right,
and
right.
So a lot of people with low income said, okay, that's enough. We have, there are a lot of taxes here already, and that's basically how it's all movement started. Yeah. But which is good because it made the government react. They are going through a 3 month process where you have a lot of public debates and meetings, all around the country, and people can. And in fact, I'm going to go to one tomorrow night.
Nice.
Where you basically can, and there are 4 topics. One of them is the environment, but you have, just general economy stuff. Mm-hmm. And then you can basically say what you would like and change that you would like to see, and then they're gonna just basically collect all the data and just see I'm hoping they will make changes in the next steps.
Yeah. So do you think it was kind of ultimately, and I don't mean to dive too much into politics, but there's this new kind of Green New Deal resolution that came out in the U.S. and there's a similar response of essentially that it was too much, trying to do too much too fast. And oftentimes I feel like when governments do that, they can end up kind of pushing away people from the idea of sustainable measures, even though we do need to act fast, I would argue. But do you kind of think that that tax policy and the response that came from it is ultimately going to be like beneficial to France, or has it just caused kind of more outrage or more problems than it will solve?
Well, I think that tax was just the thing that started the whole movement, but it's just a small portion. I think it was a lot more complex, and just there is people have a work full time, but they have a hard time joining the basically paying all their bills and and living basically.
Yeah.
So but for me the environment, I don't think we realize really the issue and the urgency where that we have to solve and try to solve the problem and make things better. And I was talking to a guy a few weeks ago, and we were talking about the fact that you have the government sometimes has to impose stuff to to people, and unfortunately that's very often the only way to get stuff done. And when you look in the past, that's for example, having to wear to have your seatbelt while driving now.
Right.
30 years ago you didn't have to, and I don't think I think if the government would have said just wear your seatbelts, and I don't think a lot of people would today. But by enforcing this measure, it's basically it saved a lot of lives, and it forced people to do it. And I think on the environmental side, that's really something that we need to do as well, and just give no option and just do new things and better things.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I appreciate that perspective. I just find a lot of times in the U.S. people can get so locked into our own politics and think that the U.S. is the world, right? And and I like to try to, if I can, bring in that outside perspective and hopefully give some understanding of what's going on elsewhere.
Yeah. But the U.S. is it's a big part of the world. It's a big country. It's a very powerful country, and I loved living there, and we might be moving back soon, so we'll see. But we and I think if you look at states like California or Colorado and all that, so I think at the local level, people can make take measures, push things in the right direction.
Yeah.
And it's I always remember, like, I think 10 years ago or even more, maybe 15 years ago, my dad went to a conference in Montreal, Canada, and they had a guy who came talk, and he was a scientist, and he was explaining that global warming and climate change is it's something very difficult for humans because it's a slow death.
Right.
It goes slow, and we are very good at reacting at catastrophes, hurricanes, stuff like that. But when it's a slow process, we just get used to these new things.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult in our mind to realize that maybe soon we will hit a wall, and it might be too late. Yeah.
Right. It's like the death by 1,000 paper cuts or whatever that old saying is, right? Yeah. So awesome. So to kind of start to close it out here, we got a couple questions that I like to ask all of our guests, because we always seem to get interesting and unique responses from them. But starting out, how do you go about explaining the concept of sustainability to a toddler? It sounds like your daughters are pretty young, given their suitcase of toys. So how do you kind of go about explaining or teaching them sustainability?
I just, talk to them. We, just recycling. We recycle. I tell them to buy less stuff. And I'm really trying to talk to them about not throwing stuff away. That trash needs to go in the trash, not on the ground. Just basic stuff. And then, we try to, talk to them about, why, organic products are better than just regular products. And it's just in everyday, discussion, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. So a combo of kind of the teach by example, right? And it being a part of their lives there. And then in addition to kind of talking with them and having a verbal kind of understanding. That's great. We just bought our oldest daughter, she's 11, a book about the life of the trees. Nice.
And it's a very easy book for kids, and where it just explain how they interact, how and how important they are, but just to be in a fun way. I think it's the same for adults. I think when we talk about these topics, it has to be fun. Positive, fun, creative.
Yeah.
And I hate to blame people, to say don't do stuff like this or don't do stuff like that.
Right. So instead, let's do this and let's do that, and take the positive, active approach. Yeah,
we just bought 2 hives, and we're gonna. Yeah.
Nice. That's cool.
So I'm gonna try to do it with my daughters starting this spring, and and then basically it will bring some new discussions about bees, of course, but insects and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right. I love it. Hopefully, if there's any parents listening, they can kind of take that approach too. I think that sounds really effective. So the next one I got here is what do you think the most important issue that we as a globe, I guess, that the Earth is facing in terms of sustainability right now?
To me, it's just it's climate change. It's just we're gonna see drastic changes in our climate. We're gonna see droughts. We're gonna see extreme cold more often. And I know that in the U.S. some people don't believe in climate change, and
that's insane.
but there have always been climate change. The challenge today is really how fast it's happening. If it's when it's happening over hundreds of thousands or millions of years, species, including ourselves, have time to adjust, adapt. Yeah, and we, today the species just can't adapt to all these new, climate challenges. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. I try to take the approach if I do come across somebody or what have you that doesn't believe in climate change. I usually try to point things in the direction of like, look, whether you think it's humans' fault or not, the climate is changing. Like there's empirical evidence that this is happening. If you think we're contributing to it or not, that's fine, but you can at least help solve the problem. Even if you don't think it's our fault, right? We can still at least have control or have enough impact to try to solve the problem.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think we can. I'm not a scientist, and so I'm not going to be able to argue with people who don't believe in this. But my vision is just just try to do things better and just common sense. It makes more sense, I think, not to put like chemicals in the ground and not to put chemicals in the ground.
All right.
So it's just stuff like this where I live not too far from Chamonix in France, where it's the Mont Blanc. That's the highest peak. Yeah. And you have there is a glacier that until like 20 years ago it was coming down almost all the way to the city. And in 20 years, it's about a mile higher than it was 20 years ago. And it's a very when you go there and you see the differences, it's just crazy.
Yeah, it hits you immediately if you're familiar with the area. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So another one. What are some things that you're kind of working on in your own life to be more sustainable? Because I think sometimes people get the picture that people that are you either like have a sustainable lifestyle or you don't, whereas with behaviors and humans it's kind of a process, and we're all kind of a work in progress, right? So what are some things that you're kind of imperfect on, so to speak, and that you're working on in your own life?
Yeah, well, I thought I was perfect, but maybe not. Yeah, no, I'm far from being perfect, and I'm far from being the most sustainable guy on the planet. We of course we cycle. We try to take our bikes, as much as we can, and then we, when we go to grocery stores, we bring our own bags. We don't use plastic bags anymore. That kind of stuff. I would say we are very good at food management, as far as we waste. I mean, we throw away almost zero food.
That's awesome.
And then we are definitely buying a lot less apparel, shoes, and that kind of stuff than before. And when we do, we try to either use buy second-hand stuff. My wife, there's an app called Vinted, and my wife buys stuff. It's all used, that's basically what we try to do. And we bought a book called Zero Waste Family, and we try to we make our own shampoo, just small things that again, if we are millions of doing that, I think the planet would be a lot healthier.
Yeah, absolutely. It adds up to a huge impact.
That's awesome. And but we want to live a normal life, a modern life, and trying to do the best we can.
I want to part of our kind of mission, I guess, is to kill like the misconceptions about people who make it a focus to be sustainable. We're not I guess that conception might be a bunch of kind of dirty tree huggers or something, right? That don't clean themselves at all, because then you have to use a product, or that don't do normal things, right? So hopefully people get that you can be lead a pretty normal life, but do a lot of these really practical things to
Yeah. I showered this morning, and it's okay. We bought 2 months ago. We bought a new shower head that basically uses 50% less
That's
water
awesome.
than our just regular shower head.
Yeah.
And we were so we took a bucket because I wanted to show my daughters, and we basically had waters like for we saw how much time it would take with both options to fill up the bucket, and
Right.
it was more than 50% sort of water saved. So
Yeah, and what that cost you, like $15 or so, or euro, I suppose.
you're right. It was so that was so the cost was it was about $40. So it's expensive for a shower head, but I think we're gonna save especially with two girls, we're gonna save so much water that I think it's gonna pay off pretty quick.
Yeah, you don't see shower heads breaking too often. You can usually use them for years and years.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, basic things like that. You can keep an eye out. You're still showering, but just by taking a look at the head of the shower that you use, it immediately cuts your water use in half. So do you have kind of any final messages here that you'd like to maybe give to either inspire people or what have you, and things that you want to plug to allow people to help support you and Saola and your mission?
Yeah. So I think first of all I would say thank you for the time, but it's I think we are the planet is a big planet, but it's not that big. We are all in this together, and basically the more sustainable approach that you can have, the better. And with Saola, again, we are really at the beginning of the brand and the story, but we have clear mission and a clear vision. And we, it's really, really hard to launch a brand. I didn't expect it to be that hard. And, every time we have tough days, I just think about, why we are doing this. I think about the sustainable manufacturing and the NGOs we're going to be able to help. So for us, the more shoes we can sell and have people wear, the bigger impact we will have, and that's really our main mission. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're pulling for you. I hope to see Saola blowing up in the next couple of years here, and that'll put your innovations and your ability to continue to improve the product and the process into hyperdrive, right?
Yeah. So we will be launching our new website on March 12th, and so there will be quite a lot of new products, and hopefully people will like them. Yeah.
Awesome. So that's saolashoes.com, right? Saola, Saola shoes.com. You can also see a good video you guys have there on your kind of origins. Obviously, if you just listen to the episode, you probably have a good idea about what's going on. And you guys have the usual Instagram and social media and so forth?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And that is that also Saola Shoes?
It's Saola Shoes, for both.
Saola Shoes, perfect. So yeah, go give them a follow. Check out their products. The mission is there. The focus on both materials and giving back is the right balance approach that the brands of tomorrow, so to speak, need to take. And with your help, Guy and Saola Shoes will grow and be successful. So I encourage you guys to check them out. And with that, Guy, again, thanks again for spending some time and having this conversation with me. I've learned a lot, and hopefully those listening have learned a lot and have a better appreciation for your mission and what you're doing to try to innovate in the apparel and specifically the footwear industry. So thank you, and remember, everyone, to protect your wild.
Yeah, thank you.
So thanks again for listening to yet another episode of the Protect Your Wild podcast. Remember, the best thing that you can do for us is to please subscribe and leave us a review. That'll help some other people find it. Also, check out our Instagram at ALDA Lifestyle and our amazing blog at aldalifestyle.com. Till next week.